It's the most wonderful time of the year. That's right. The new version of Adobe Photoshop Elements is here. G'day, I'm Melissa Shannon, founder of digitalscrapbookinghq.com, and I'm here to take you through all the new features. Let's take a look at what's new in Adobe Photoshop Elements 2024. So we're here on our usual welcome screen that gives us some ideas of what's new and what to try. And you can choose your version that you're upgrading from, and it'll customize the suggestions here based on the features that are new to your version. As usual, we have the organizer to organize all your photos and videos, the photo editor, which does everything you need to do with your photos, and the video editor, which launches Premiere Elements. So let's jump in to the photo editor and see what's new. So one of the great new features in Photoshop Elements is a completely refreshed user interface. You'll notice that the icons and the buttons have all been updated to a brand new sleek monochrome look, and the expert mode has been renamed the advanced mode. So if you're a new user to Photoshop Elements and you see people talking about the expert mode, well, that's the advanced mode in Photoshop Elements 2024. The modes themselves still do the same things. The quick mode gives you quick access to the most commonly used features. The guided edit mode includes 88 guided tutorial style edits that take you through a process to achieve a certain look. And the advanced mode gives you access to all of the tools and features in Photoshop Elements so you can work in greater detail with the layers as you would in Photoshop. And we can customize the look of our app. You'll need to restart the program when we change the color mode. You can choose from light or dark, then just click OK and restart Photoshop Elements. So now we just start Photoshop Elements again, jump into the editor. So now here we are in the dark mode. It's going to be interesting to see what the feedback is about the light and dark modes. I know that a lot of us, we're used to the dark modes that were available from the start of Photoshop Elements up to about version 13, if I remember correctly, and then we went light. So everyone's been asking for light and dark for many years, and Adobe's been listening, and they have done it in this version. So if we go into Photoshop, you can see that the colors are very similar. The interface is a little different. And if we head over to advanced here, you can see that the icons are quite similar to the Photoshop icons. The only difference I notice is that the toolbox in Elements, of course, has the two columns. It's also in a darker shade as opposed to the lighter one in Photoshop. So it's very similar. You'll notice here the text is much bigger in Photoshop Elements than in Photoshop. It appears to be a little bit of a bug just on Windows as far as I know. I don't know whether they'll fix that in upcoming releases. You know, on the first feature, we also find the first bug, which we're not off to a great start, but you know, these things happen. If we compare this to the font sizes in, say, Windows Explorer, you can see the fonts are much bigger in Elements, but in Organizer, they are the standard size, and you set the preferences up independently in Organizer and in Editor and in Premiere Elements too. So you get to choose which colors you like for which apps. So will you be switching to the dark side in Photoshop Elements 2024? Give me a little moon in the comments if you want to enjoy the new dark interface, or give me a sun if you're going to stick to the light and bright interface. Each year, Adobe adds a handful of new edits powered by their Sensei AI engine. You can click on this quick actions to do some quick fixes to your photos. I won't be going through every single one of these, but let's check out a few. These quick actions you can single click to apply them. And then once they're fixed and set up, you can click on this double arrow to go across to the expert mode where you can do further customizations. Let's go back over to the quick edit mode. There's lots of fun edits you can make there, including some effects. And as always, you can click on the revert button if you want to revert your photo to its last saved state. Let's have a look at a couple of new ones, which add a blue sky. And here you notice that one of my balloons has slightly got cut off. So I'm just going to go into the editing and I'm going to draw the rest of the balloon back in. So the quick actions give you a great start to editing your photos. And you can always click on the double arrows to go a little bit further with different options for your photos. Is there any quick actions you'd like me to show? Leave me a comment below and let me know which quick action you'd like more information on. Did you know you can now create your own reel in Photoshop Elements? That's right. Under the Create menu, you can now create a reel. So all you need to do is open up all the photos you want in your reel and then select them by clicking on the first photo that you want to include in the reel and then shift clicking on the last photo. Then you go to Create Photo Reel and Photoshop Elements will pop them all in for you. They'll be cropped to whatever size you choose. There's a few standard sizes that you can choose from, 9x16, 1x1, etc., etc. Then we've got sizes for Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, also known as X, and Threads. So let's just go with an Instagram reel for today. It's going to be really handy for those reels you want to make with photos that are on your computer already. Now they're all given 0.5 seconds on the screen and you can preview them right away. Now this one's pretty good. I do like it. I had Photoshop Elements help me choose the photo, but there's a few where I really need to align them a bit better into the frame. So let's go ahead and pause the video. Then we can use the Move tool to move those photos. You can also adjust the time that you want certain photos to be on screen. For example, I might want this one to be on screen for longer. And you can also add effects and graphics. I'm going to add this little banner to the first photo. I'm going to resize that and add a little title to my photo. Then when you're happy with how everything looks, you can click export and then save it as an MP4. Now let's have a look at the resulting reel. Photoshop Elements doesn't actually allow you to save your project in an editable format. You can either export it or press cancel and return back to your familiar editing modes. If you'd like to do something a bit more advanced with your photo reels, you'll want to head over to Premiere Elements. But for a quick photo reel where you can just export it as an MP4 and share it on social media using their built-in music, I think it's a pretty great start to the new feature. Let's click on the guided edit mode and check out the brand new add text feature. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to need to open a photo. We're going to click add text. Let's add some text. We can choose from a number of different type modes: horizontal, a vertical, text on a selection, text on a shape, and text on a path. Let's just keep it simple and go with the horizontal type tool. As with any guided edit, you'll just work through the process as prompted in the right-hand panel. So we're just going to click and type our text. You'll notice that by default, we now have some text. So if you've ever had that awkward moment where you've added a type layer and then there's nothing in there and it's impossible to select it again, yep, that won't happen anymore. And you'll see that no longer is it a green check mark or tick, as we call it here down under, and then a red cancel sign. Now we just have black icons. So RIP to me having to edit every blog post I've ever done. Now we get to add a text style. Let's see what we've got here. We've got a stroke around the edge, got 3D effects here. You can always click on advanced, which takes us to the style settings, and we can go ahead and change the shadow, the bevel, and the stroke. We can change the position of the stroke as well. So when you're happy with how everything looks, you click OK. And then you can optionally add a gradient or pattern to your text. Let's zoom in a bit. We can use the zoom tool here or the zoom slider, and we can use the hand tool to move things around. And let's have a look. Do we want to fill it with flowers? Yes, we can. Do we want it filled with leaves? Yes, we can. There's lots of fun options. Leopard, fluffy pink, unicorn sparkles, chrome. There's also fun gradients, which you can also reverse if you so choose. I'm going to go with that. And then we click next. We get to choose whether we want to save as or save. I'm going to save as because I need to save it as a PSD file so I can come back and edit it later. And then I can click continue editing in quick or in advanced mode. I'm going to go with advanced mode because advanced mode is the one I'm most familiar with and it has access to all of the tools. But you can switch between modes by clicking the buttons at the top of the window at any time. That is the new Add Type Guided Edit. It's really handy for you if you haven't been using the Photoshop elements too much, you're not quite sure how to get the effects you want, and might see this image in a YouTube thumbnail coming sometime soon. We've got another brand new integration in Photoshop Elements this year. We have got Adobe Stock integration. So let's take a look at the first way you can add Adobe Stock to your project. Just go to the File menu and then click Search on Adobe Stock. Let's see what we've got. You can search or you can just browse the categories. Let's see if we can put me in front of a computer perhaps. That we can click to preview the image. Let's move this out of the way so that we can see the preview. And when we found the photo we want to use, we can click License for free. Now let's just wait while the photo's downloaded. And once it's downloaded, we can edit it as we would any other layer in our document. So I'm going to remove the locking of the background layer and select the subject, so that I can put myself in front of this nice office background. Because this has come in as a smart object, I can resize it, make it work. I think that background is way too busy there. So I'm just going to add a shape behind my text to make it a little easier to read. Let's add some color and there you go. Looks pretty good. Isn't that fun? Have you ever checked out the graphics tab in Photoshop Elements? If you haven't looked at it in a few years, you want to check it out. It's now been updated with Adobe Stock so that you can use a wider array of graphics in your projects. I'm going to open up a new file in the advanced mode in Photoshop Elements and then click on Graphics and then click on the Adobe Stock icon. Now I'm going to go for a little bit of a search for a painted wooden background. You can preview the stock image by clicking on it once and it'll load in, or you can click License for free and the file will be downloaded and added as a new layer above your currently selected layer. So let's look at another option of a graphic you could add. I think I like that one. Let's click License for free and then you could go ahead and add, a product shot to a background like that. And there you go, Adobe Stock in Photoshop Elements for free. The third way you can use Adobe Stock in Photoshop Elements 2024 is with the Replace Background Guided Edit. Let's head to the Guided Edit mode and let's replace the background of our photos. You can find that under the Special Edit or you can search for Replace Background. So the first thing we're going to do is select the primary image by clicking Subject Select, and we can add to the selection with any of these tools. I can import a photo, have no background, add a color, or click on Adobe Stock. Then you can search with any keywords you'd like. I'm looking for photos in Perth because that's where I live. Let's choose this photo of what I assume is Kings Park and click license for free. And let's add our children to this lush green background instead of the industrial look. Thanks to Julian Masters for this gorgeous photo taken back in 2016. And then we can use the move tool to move the children or the background around to get a little bit more of a realistic look. Let's face it, it's not going to be very realistic. They're in bright sun and this is shady, but you know, we can use the refine edge brush to improve the look of the edges. We'll zoom in a bit and use the hand tool to move. Let's just refine those edges and subtract this bit of grass here. A little bit more of Edward's head, and let's zoom out. Let's add auto match color tone. And when you're happy with how everything looks, click next and then choose how you'd like to edit. I'm going to continue editing in the advanced mode. And I'm just going to add a little bit more realism by adding a new layer and painting on a shadow with my brush tool. So, how do you like it? Let me know in the comments. It's never going to be a perfect edit when you take children leaning against a wall and make them stand up in front of a background, but I hope it gives you an idea of how you can use Adobe Stock to replace your backgrounds. And there you have it, from this to this in just a matter of minutes. Let's take a look at the Create menu and create a quote graphic. Start with this one, create it in the size of an Instagram post, double click on it to start the editing process. Now, let's just change up the graphic here by clicking on Adobe Stock. And I'm going to customize this for our Christmas. Go with this little snowman or sandman, I guess. We'll license it for free. Well, we can just move it around. Change the text. Change up the color to blend in with our Christmas theme. And then I think I'll remove some of these pine trees by just clicking on each one and then clicking delete. You can now click done. You can go ahead and continue editing in Photoshop Elements Advanced mode. I'm going to just resize this and then align them. Those quote graphic templates have so much more flexibility when you can search the Adobe Stock library as well as add your own photos. We have got some new artistic effects in the quick edit mode. To get to the artistic effects in quick edit mode, click on the effects button and then click the drop down for artistic effects. Let's check them out. We can choose some options with our effects. We can choose to keep the original photo colors. We can choose to reduce the intensity of the effect. And we can choose to apply it to just the background or just the subject of the photo. Or we can apply it to both. So that's the charcoal effect. Now let's have a quick look at all the other new options. Copper, silver tones, azure, and finally, isle, as in an island. Now, of course, these effects have a different kind of look depending on what kinds of photos you're using them on. So be sure to play around with these new artistic effects in Photoshop Elements. And if you haven't kept up with artistic effects, there's quite a huge range of them now. And they can be accessed both in the quick mode, as we've been doing, or in advanced mode, where you can find them under the effects tab or under the effects window. Press F2 for a shortcut there. You can go up to artistic effects here, and as you'd expect, it's pretty similar. You can get some different sorts of effects by dialing down the intensity. I really like that look there. So that's how you can use the brand new artistic effects in Photoshop Elements 2024. The next feature to show you is up in the Select menu. We've got two new additions, background and sky. So not only can you select the subject, as you have been able to do for a few versions of Photoshop Elements, you can click select and then background, and you can remove the background just like that. For those of you wondering, I just press delete, which fills with the background color here. So let's see if we can select the sky on this image here. Go to select and then sky, and let's see how that goes. A bit more of a difficult one for us here. Let's press delete and see how it did. Control D to deselect. I'm pretty impressed, honestly. Let's give it another difficult one here on a snowy background. Select the sky and delete, deselect. I mean, it's done a pretty decent job, I think, of selecting the sky. We've lost a bit of detail from the background, but you know what? I'm pretty impressed. This is actually quite a difficult photo for a computer to work out. There's low contrast between the sky and the snowy ground, and there's not much contrast between the background and the foreground trees either. Now let's check out the select background. I also wanted to show you the other way to access these new selection options. You can use the selection brush tool, and then you can see here we've got select subject, select sky, and select background. So let's click select background. It does prompt us that our current selection will be discarded, which is fine. And then look at that. It did an excellent job selecting the background there. And let's give it something slightly more tricky here. And it's done a decent job here. It is difficult with those white things blurring in. Let's try another photo. And here the focal depth is a bit too shallow. So if things are fairly well focused on a simple background, select background really works well and could save you quite a lot of time. Over in the effects panel, in the quick edit mode, there's quite a number of different effects you can apply. And if you haven't looked at them in a while, I definitely recommend you check out the artistic and the classic effects. But today what we're looking at is the color match effects. The color match effects apply the colors in these stock images here to your photo. So it changes the colors and the look of your photo to match the look and feel of the sample. So you can get a sepia look, pastels, and the effects come out differently on different types of photos. Play around and see which color match effects you like best for your photos. You can also access the color match effects in the advanced mode. Just click on the effects tab, and then you can click import photo to import any photo from your hard drive to match the colors from that photo in your new image. You can then play around and adjust the saturation, shift the hue, and increase or decrease the brightness to get the specific look you're going for. And you can just import a new photo for a completely different color match look. So there you have it, the brand new color match feature in Photoshop Elements 2024. So that's all the new features in the Photoshop Elements editor, but there's even more new features in the Elements companion apps, the organizer, and Premiere Elements. So make sure you give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you'll be notified when I make videos about these new features. What was your favorite new feature in Photoshop Elements 2024? Did you love the photo reels? Maybe you're looking forward to trying out Color Match. Or maybe you're just excited to choose between the light and the new dark interface. Let me know in the comments below. And if you'd like to learn more about Photoshop Elements right now, head to digitalscrapbookinghq.com.